Commander Juniper Nash stood at the helm of the Stellaris, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the surface of Europa, 742, a moon orbiting a gas giant in the Arcturus sector. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything. She was wrong. "Dr. Wei, are you seeing this?" she called out, her voice steady despite the tremor of excitement she felt. The lunar surface before them was no longer just ice and rock. Geometric patterns stretched across the landscape, too precise to be natural. Dr. Marcus Wei, the ship's lead xenoarchaeologist, looked up from his instruments, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of his displays. "Incredible. These patterns. They're similar to the fragments we found in the Proxima system, but intact. Complete." The research vessel Stellaris had been tracking these archaeological breadcrumbs across 3 star systems. Each discovery had led them closer to this moment, but nothing had prepared them for the scale of what they'd found. "Lieutenant Parker, bring us in closer." "Standard approach vector," Nash ordered. The young navigation officer nodded, her fingers dancing across the haptic interface. As they descended, the true magnitude of the discovery became apparent. What had appeared to be surface markings were actually the exposed portions of a vast underground complex. Crystalline structures jutted from the ice, pulsing with a faint, internal light that seemed to follow patterns too complex for human eyes to track. "Energy readings are off the charts," announced Chief Engineer Ramos, his broad shoulders hunched over his station. "Whatever this facility is, it's still active. After all this time." Dr. Wei moved to the main viewport, tablet in hand. "Based on preliminary dating, this structure is at least 300,000 years old. The technological implications alone." The comm system crackled to life, interrupting him. "Stellaris, this is Director Hayes of the Horizon Corporation. Our sensors detected your discovery. Maintain position and prepare for our arrival." Nash felt her jaw tighten. Victoria Hayes was the last person she wanted involved. The corporate executive had a reputation for putting profits before safety, and her presence here could only complicate matters. "Acknowledged, Director," Nash replied, keeping her tone neutral. "However, I should inform you that we've detected unusual energy signatures. We're still assessing potential risks." "Noted, Commander. The Horizon Corporation has full authority from the Colonial Science Board for this type of discovery. We'll arrive in 18 hours. Hayes out." Dr. Wei turned to Nash, concern evident in his features. "Commander, we need to examine the site before they arrive. There's something about these energy patterns. They remind me of warning markers we've seen in other ancient ruins." Nash nodded. "Agreed. Assemble your team, Doctor. We're going down there." For hours later, Nash stood in the main chamber of the alien facility, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. The room was vast, its walls covered in shifting patterns of light that seemed to respond to their presence. Dr. Wei moved from crystal to crystal, scanning each one with increasingly complex instruments. "Commander," called out Dr. Wei's assistant, Dr. Yuki Sato. "We've managed to decode some of the basic patterns. They're repeating sequences. Messages." Wei rushed over to examine her findings, his expression growing grave. "These aren't just messages. They're warnings. Look at this symbol sequence. It appears in every major ancient ruin site associated with extinction-level events." Nash approached the central crystal, its surface rippling like liquid metal. "What kind of warnings?" "They speak of a threshold," Wei explained, his voice hushed with awe and fear. "A boundary that shouldn't be crossed. Something about containment. The translation is difficult, but the meaning is clear. This facility is part of some kind of containment system, and they're warning us not to." A sudden tremor ran through the facility, cutting him off. The crystals pulsed brighter, their patterns accelerating. "What did you do?" Nash demanded, but Wei shook his head. "Nothing. The facility seems to be reacting to something else." "Something?" He stopped, staring at his readings. "Commander, we're detecting quantum fluctuations unlike anything we've ever seen. It's as if the fabric of space itself is being examined." "Everyone back to the shuttle. Now." Nash's order cut through the tension. As they rushed through the ancient corridors, the facility's pulse grew stronger, more urgent. They were halfway back to the Stellaris when the first transmission from Director Hayes' approaching vessel came through. "Commander Nash, our long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity. We're accelerating our arrival. Begin preparing the site for immediate research operations." Nash shared a look with Dr. Wei. They both knew what corporate involvement would mean: aggressive exploration, artifact extraction, maybe even attempts to tap into the facility's power sources. "Director Hayes," Nash replied, "I strongly recommend we establish a quarantine perimeter. Our preliminary findings suggest." "Your concerns are noted, Commander. But this discovery is too important to delay. The potential applications of this technology could advance human civilization by centuries." As Nash stood in the Stellaris' decontamination chamber, watching Hayes' ship approach on the long-range scanners, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to cross a line that humanity wasn't ready to cross. The ancient warning pulses continued below, their rhythm matching her heartbeat, like a countdown to something inevitable. Dr. Wei appeared at her side, his face ashen. "Commander, I've completed the preliminary translations. The facility, it's not just containing something. It's holding back something that destroyed its creators. Something they couldn't defeat, only imprison." Nash watched Hayes' ship grow larger on the display, knowing that in a matter of hours, corporate interest would override scientific caution. Humanity's greatest discovery might just become its final mistake. "Send all our findings to Central Command," she ordered. "Everything we've translated, every scan, every reading. If Hayes won't listen to our warnings." She paused, watching the ancient facility pulse below them, its message now clear but unheeded. "Someone needs to know what we found here, and what we're about to unleash." Dr. Kenzo Tanaka couldn't shake the feeling that every moment spent studying the crystalline artifacts was another step toward catastrophe. The Horizon Corporation's research facility, hastily constructed on Europa 742's surface, hummed with activity as dozens of scientists worked to unlock the ancient technology's secrets. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases," he muttered, adjusting his spectral analyzer. The artifact before him, a shard of crystal no larger than his palm, pulsed with an inner light that seemed to follow his movements. "That's exactly why we're here, Doctor," Director Hayes said, appearing behind him. She'd shed her corporate attire for a lab coat, but her predatory demeanor remained. "Your expertise in quantum mechanics is crucial to understanding these devices." Tanaka gestured to his readings. "These patterns suggest the crystals aren't just storing energy, they're containing something. The mathematical sequences are like nothing I've ever seen. It's as if they're holding back a force that operates outside our understanding of physics." "All the more reason to press forward," Hayes replied, her smile not reaching her eyes. "The board expects results, and frankly, Commander Nash's warnings have already delayed us enough." The mention of Nash made Tanaka glance at the window. The Stellaris remained in orbit, ordered to stay as an observation vessel only. He knew Nash and Dr. Wei were watching, powerless to stop what was happening. A young researcher, Dr. Vanessa Reed, rushed into the lab. "Dr. Tanaka, we've managed to initiate a response sequence in the main chamber. You need to see this." The central chamber of the facility had been transformed into a maze of equipment. The ancient crystals, now exposed by careful excavation, formed a geometric pattern across the walls and ceiling. As Tanaka entered, he noticed the pulses of light had grown stronger, more synchronized. "It started about 10 minutes ago," Reed explained, pointing to her monitors. "We were testing resonance frequencies, trying to match the crystal's natural harmony, and suddenly, the chamber trembled slightly, and the crystal's glow intensified. Patterns of light danced across their surfaces, forming and reforming in complex sequences." "Dr. Reed, are you recording this?" Tanaka asked, his voice tight with concern. Something about the patterns seemed familiar. They matched theoretical models he'd once developed about quantum containment fields. "Full spectrum analysis," she confirmed. "But there's something else. The energy readings, they're beginning to spike in ways that don't make sense. It's as if the power is coming from somewhere else, somewhere A violent tremor cut her off, stronger than any before. Warning alarms blared throughout the facility. All personnel, we are detecting unusual seismic activity, the facility's AI announced. Please proceed to designated safety areas. Director Hayes burst into the chamber. What's happening? The board members are about to begin their virtual tour, and I promised them a demonstration of. The crystals flared blindingly bright, and a deep resonance filled the air, more felt than heard. Tanaka watched in horror as fracture lines appeared across their surfaces. Shut everything down, he shouted. The containment field, it's failing. But it was too late. The crystals shattered in a cascade of light and energy, releasing something that seemed to bend reality itself. Where the fragments fell, space appeared to fold and twist, as if something was pushing through from another dimension. Evacuate. Everyone out. Tanaka grabbed Reed's arm, pulling her toward the exit. Behind them, Hayes stood transfixed, watching as shapes began to form in the distorted air, shapes that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. The facility's lights flickered and died, replaced by an otherworldly glow emanating from the breach. Emergency containment doors slammed shut, but they might as well have been paper against what was emerging. In orbit, the Stellaris' sensors went crazy. Commander Nash's voice crackled over the emergency channel. Ground team, we're detecting massive quantum fluctuations. What's your status? Tanaka keyed as calm as they ran. The containment field is down. Whatever the ancients were holding back, it's free. They reached the surface exit just as the facility's structure began to warp and twist. Through the reinforced windows, Tanaka saw impossible geometries forming, reality itself seeming to tear apart at the seams. Get to the emergency shuttles, he ordered the panicking staff. Contact the Stellaris. Tell them to maintain distance. A horrifying screech filled the air, not sound but pure energy that made their bones vibrate. Where the facility had stood, a vortex of darkness was forming, consuming matter and light alike. From his shuttle's viewport, Tanaka watched Director Hayes' personal vessel attempt to lift off. It never made it. Tendrils of what looked like living shadow reached up, wrapping around the ship. In seconds, it was gone, not destroyed but simply erased. Dr. Tanaka, Nash's voice came through clear now that they were airborne. What exactly did we release down there? He stared at the growing anomaly below, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Something that exists outside our understanding of physics. The ancients, they didn't build that facility to protect their technology. They built it as a prison. The shuttles docked with the Stellaris, and the ship immediately began pulling away from the moon. On the main viewer, they watched as the anomaly spread, consuming the research facility and everything around it. We need to warn Earth, Tanaka said, his voice hollow. This is only the beginning. Those containment crystals, they weren't just on Europa, 742. We found fragments across multiple systems, remember? They're all connected. They're all part of a larger prison. And we just opened the cell door, Nash finished grimly. As the Stellaris accelerated to FTL speeds, Tanaka couldn't help but think of all the other research teams out there, examining similar ruins on distant worlds. How many other doors were about to be opened? How many ancient warnings would be ignored in the name of progress? The answer, he feared, would come all too soon. Captain Zara Rodriguez watched the tactical display as another colony went dark. New Damascus, population 40,000, gone in less than an hour. The entity they'd released had grown stronger, more aggressive, with each passing week. Status report, she commanded, standing on the bridge of the Aegis, humanity's most advanced battleship. 3 more containment sites have been breached, Lieutenant Chang reported, his fingers moving rapidly over his console. Whatever this thing is, it's learning. It's targeting the ancient prisons specifically now. Rodriguez studied the strategic map, where red markers indicated fallen colonies and compromised containment facilities. A pattern was emerging. The entity wasn't moving randomly. It was methodically releasing others of its kind. Captain, Communications Officer Patel interrupted. We're receiving a transmission. Well, you need to see this. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a figure Rodriguez had never seen before. The alien was tall and ethereal, with crystalline features that reminded her uncomfortably of the ancient ruins. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Centauri Alliance," the being announced. "We've been monitoring your situation. The threat you face is known to us. We have been watching these prisons for millennia." Rodriguez straightened. "You knew about these facilities? Why didn't you warn us?" "We tried. The boundary markers, the warning signals, those were maintained by our people, among others. But your species." Krell's expression shifted in a way that might have been sorrow. "You moved too quickly, too eager to claim what wasn't yours." Before Rodriguez could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. "Multiple quantum distortions detected," Chang shouted. "They're surrounding the Proxima Centauri colony." "Show me," Rodriguez ordered. The tactical display shifted, revealing swirling vortexes of darkness appearing around the colony's defense perimeter. The entity had brought reinforcements. "Ambassador," Rodriguez turned back to the screen. "If you know what these things are, help us fight them." Krell's crystalline features shimmered. "Fighting is not the answer. The Ancient Ones tried that. It cost them their civilization. These beings cannot be destroyed by conventional means. They exist in dimensions beyond your comprehension." "Then what do you suggest? We just watch them consume everything in their path?" "No." Krell moved closer to the screen. "We offer an alliance. Your species has shown remarkable adaptability. Combined with our knowledge of the Ancient One's technology, we might find a solution. But you must act quickly. Once these entities establish a foothold in this dimension, they cannot be contained again." Rodriguez glanced at the tactical display. The Proxima Centauri colony's shields were failing. Thousands of lives hung in the balance. "What's your proposal?" "Allow me to come aboard your vessel. Bring Dr. Tanaka as well. His insights into the containment technology could be valuable. Time is short." Within hours, Ambassador Krell's ship docked with the Aegis. The alien's presence on the bridge drew curious looks, but Rodriguez's crew remained professional. They had bigger concerns than first contact protocols. "The entities are drawn to energy," Krell explained, manipulating a holographic display. "They feed on it, use it to maintain their presence in our dimension. The Ancient Ones discovered this was also their weakness." Dr. Tanaka, who had arrived from the Stellaris, leaned forward. "The containment crystals, they weren't just prisons. They were energy sinks." "Correct. They created a state of controlled entropy, a space where the entities couldn't maintain their form. But the system required constant maintenance. When your people damaged the first facility, we created a cascade failure," Tanaka finished. "Each broken prison weakens the others." A flash on the tactical display drew their attention. The Proxima Centauri colony had gone dark. "Another 4 million lives," Rodriguez said quietly. "How many more before we can stop this?" Krell's crystalline form pulsed with inner light. "There might be a way. The Ancient Ones left behind more than prisons. They also left weapons, devices capable of generating artificial entropy fields. But retrieving them would mean going into entity-controlled space." Rodriguez straightened. "The Aegis is the most advanced ship in the fleet. If anyone can manage it." "Captain," Chang interrupted. "Multiple contacts appearing. They're not using normal space. They're just appearing inside our defense grid." The ship shuddered as reality itself seemed to twist around them. Through the main viewport, Rodriguez watched as patches of space turned inside out, revealing glimpses of something vast and dark. "They found us," Krell said, their voice urgent. "They know we possess knowledge of the Ancient Ones. They'll try to stop us before we can reach the weapons." Rodriguez keyed the shipwide comm, "All hands, battle stations. Engineering, divert all non-essential power to the quantum shields." She turned to Krell. "Tell me where we need to go." "The nearest cache is in the Deneb system." "But Captain," Krell's crystalline features darkened. "Even if we reach it, using the weapons will have consequences. The Ancient One's technology operates on principles that could destabilize local space-time." "Worse than what's happening now?" "Different, but equally devastating." Rodriguez watched as her tactical officers coordinated the evacuation of nearby colonies. More red dots appeared on the strategic map. More lives lost, More territory ceded to an enemy they barely understood. Plot a course for Deneb, she ordered. Whatever the cost, whatever the consequences, this has to end. We opened this door. Now we have to close it. As the Aegis prepared to jump, Rodriguez studied the alien ambassador. Why help us? Your people could have just watched us fall. Krell's response was solemn. Because the Ancient Ones made a mistake too. They tried to face this threat alone. We learned from their failure. Unity is our only hope. All species, all civilizations, standing together. Or we all fall separately. The ship jumped to FTL speed, racing against time and darkness. Behind them, the entities continued their inexorable advance, consuming colonies and stars alike. Ahead lay either salvation or annihilation, and Rodriguez couldn't shake the feeling that the difference between the two might be frighteningly small. Lieutenant Commander Dante Freeman stood before the hastily assembled Interspecies Defense Council, the holographic representatives of 3 alien civilizations flickering around him. The Emergency Command Center on Mars Station hummed with tension as reports of new attacks arrived every hour. The Rigelian border colonies have fallen, announced MX-Tor, the insectoid representative of the Hive Collective. Their mandibles clicked with agitation. Our quantum barriers delayed them for only 72 hours. The same in the Vega sector, added High Speaker Lyra of the Aldebarani, her bioluminescent form pulsing with distress. These entities, they're not just consuming our worlds. They're learning, adapting to our defenses. Freeman pulled up the latest strategic analysis. Dr. Patel's team has made progress understanding the Ancient One's technology. Doctor, please share your findings. Dr. Amara Patel stepped forward, her dark eyes intense with discovery and concern. The quantum physicist had been working non-stop with a mixed team of human and alien scientists since the crisis began. The Ancient Ones didn't just build prisons, she explained, manipulating a holographic model. They created a network, each facility connected to the others through quantum entanglement. When we breached the first containment site, we didn't just release one entity. We destabilized the entire system. Can it be restored? Ambassador Krell asked from aboard the Aegis, their crystalline form shimmering with urgency. Not in its original form, Patel replied. But we've discovered something interesting. The entities aren't just drawn to energy, they're bound by specific laws of quantum physics, laws the Ancient Ones understood and exploited. Freeman watched the tactical display as another colony winked out of existence. How does this help us? Because they're not invincible, Patel said, her voice growing excited. They're powerful, yes, but they're also constrained by their nature. The Ancient One's containment system wasn't just about imprisonment. It was about forcing the entities to exist in a state that limited their abilities. The holographic representatives leaned forward as Patel continued. We've been fighting them in our dimension by our rules. But if we can't create a space that operates on different quantum principles, you're talking about changing the fundamental nature of space-time, MX-Tor interrupted. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. Which is why we need all of you, Freeman said. Humanity's antimatter technology, combined with Centauri crystalline matrices, Rigelian quantum computers, and Aldebarani energy-focusing systems, together, we might have enough power to make this work. A new alarm blared through the command center. Multiple breaches detected in the Sol system's outer defense perimeter, announced the AI. Entity signatures approaching Mars orbit. They know what we're planning, Krell warned. They're going to try to stop us before we can implement Dr. Patel's solution. Freeman squared his shoulders. Then we don't give them the chance. High Speaker Lyra, can your people have the energy-focusing arrays ready within 48 hours? The Aldebarani's bioluminescence pulsed with determination. 36. We've already begun modifications based on Dr. Patel's specifications. The Hive will provide quantum processing cores, MX-Tor added. Our factories are already being converted. The Centauri crystals are being prepared, Krell confirmed. But there's something else you should know. This plan. Implementing it will have severe consequences for local space-time. Any system where we deploy this technology will become uninhabitable for centuries. Freeman met each representative's gaze in turn. Compared to what happens if we fail, that's a price we have to be willing to pay. The command center shook as the first entities reached Mars' orbital defense grid. Through the reinforced windows, Freeman could see reality itself warping, darkness seeping through the cracks in space. Dr. Patel, you have 24 hours to finish the prototype, he ordered. Everyone else, we need to buy her that time. Every ship, every weapon, every resource we have goes into holding them back. The next day was a blur of desperate battles and last-minute adjustments. Freeman coordinated the combined fleet's defense of the Sol system while Patel and her team worked frantically to complete the quantum displacement device. Ships from all four species fought side by side, their different technologies complementing each other in ways never before attempted. Aldebarani light beam weapons proved temporarily effective at disrupting the entity's form. Rigelian phase cannons could delay their advance, but nothing could stop them completely. The device is ready, Patel announced finally, her voice exhausted but triumphant. But we'll only get one shot at this. The power requirements will burn out every quantum core we have. Freeman watched as the entities breached Mars' inner defense ring. Hundreds of ships, the best of four civilizations, had been lost trying to hold them back. The darkness was spreading, consuming everything in its path. Signal all remaining ships to fall back to the designated coordinates, he ordered. Dr. Patel, begin power-up sequence. As the combined fleet retreated to safe distance, Freeman felt the weight of history on his shoulders. For species, ancient enemies and recent friends had united in the face of extinction. Whatever happened next would change the galaxy forever. Entity signatures accelerating, reported the tactical officer. They're converging on our position. Freeman keyed the general frequency. All ships, hold position. Dr. Patel, on my mark. The darkness approached, reality twisting and breaking around its advance. In its depths, Freeman thought he could see glimpses of other dimensions, of spaces where the laws of physics were mere suggestions. Remember, Patel said softly, her hand hovering over the activation control. Once we do this, there's no going back. The Sol system as we know it will cease to exist. Freeman thought of Earth, of Mars, of all the colonies humanity had built. Then he thought of the billions already lost, of worlds consumed by darkness, of the price of failure. For all our peoples, he said. Do it. As Patel activated the device, Freeman watched the darkness rush toward them, unaware that this time, humanity and its allies weren't trying to stop its advance. They were letting it come, drawing it in, preparing to change the very nature of space itself. The real question was, would it be enough? Fleet Admiral Olivia Winter watched as the dying star Proxima Beta pulsed in angry red on her command screen. The combined fleet of four civilizations held position at the calculated safe distance, though safe was a relative term when dealing with both a supernova and interdimensional entities. Status report, she commanded, her silver hair reflecting the emergency lighting of the flagship Hyperion. Chief Engineer Omar Hassan looked up from his station, dark circles under his eyes betraying weeks of sleepless nights. The stellar manipulation devices are in position. If Dr. Patel's calculations are correct, we can trigger a controlled collapse that will power the quantum displacement field. If they're correct, came the melodic voice of Inex Lara, the Aldebarani strategist who had become humanity's most valuable ally. The alien's bioluminescent form cast shifting patterns across the bridge. And if they're not, we'll tear a hole in space-time that could consume half the galaxy. Winter nodded grimly. Better than letting these entities consume all of it. What's their current position? The tactical display updated, showing massive concentrations of darkness approaching from multiple vectors. The entities had grown powerful enough to move between star systems almost instantly, consuming entire civilizations in days. They know what we're planning, Hassan said. They're converging on our position faster than we anticipated. We'll need to trigger the star before all preparations are complete. Winter opened a channel to the combined fleet. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Winter. Begin final countdown sequence. May whatever gods you believe in watch over us all. The fleet moved into formation. Centauri crystalline ships glowing with contained energy. Rigelian quantum battlecruisers humming with impossible calculations. Aldebarani light vessels weaving protective fields of pure energy. And humanity's own ships, smaller, but armed with the determination that had gotten them this far. "Admiral," Hassan called out suddenly, "we're detecting unusual readings from the star. The entities, they're not just approaching. They're affecting Proxima Beta directly." The main viewers showed the horror unfolding before them. Tendrils of darkness wrapped around the dying star, as if the entities understood what the allied species planned. The star's natural red glow began to dim as they fed on its energy. "They're accelerating the star's death," Lara observed, their light patterns shifting to show alarm. "But in doing so, they're also concentrating their presence. Perhaps they're playing right into our hands," Winter finished. "All ships, new coordinates transmitted. Engineer Hassan, begin the sequence now." The fleet moved with practiced precision, taking positions around the dying star. This was the moment they had prepared for, the culmination of 4 civilizations' combined knowledge and desperation. "Quantum cores at maximum power," reported the Rigelian commander. "Reality distortion fields engaging." "Centauri crystals aligned," added Ambassador Krell from their vessel. "Ready to channel the stellar energy." Aldebarani light matrices prepared to contain the initial blast, High Speaker Lyra confirmed. Winter took a deep breath. "Dr. Patel, are you ready?" From her station aboard the science vessel Hawking, Dr. Patel's voice came through clear and determined. "The quantum displacement device is calibrated. Remember, we'll only have a fraction of a second between the star's collapse and the entity's reaction. If we miss that window, we won't," Winter stated firmly. "Hassan, begin stellar collapse sequence." The massive engineering arrays surrounding Proxima Beta activated, their combined power reaching into the star's core. The entities, still feeding on the star's energy, seemed to realize too late what was happening. "Star reaching critical mass," Hassan reported, his hands flying over his controls. "Collapse in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Winter watched as the entities tried to pull away from the star, but their own feeding frenzy had trapped them in its gravitational field. Just as the ancient ones had used their nature against them, now 4 young civilizations would do the same. 3, 2, 1. Proxima Beta collapsed, and for a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then reality itself screamed. The star's death released energy beyond measurement, but instead of exploding outward, it folded in on itself, channeled by Centauri crystals, processed by Rigelian quantum computers, contained by Aldebarani light matrices, and focused by human determination. "Quantum displacement field activating." Patel shouted over the comm, all ships maintain position. Winter watched as space itself began to change around the dying star. The entities, caught in the field, writhed in dimensions humans couldn't fully perceive. Their darkness began to fracture, forced to exist in a realm where their own physics worked against them. "It's working," Lara announced, their bioluminescence pulsing rapidly. "The field is stabilizing. The entities, they're being forced into a state of controlled entropy," Hassan finished. "Just like the ancient ones' prisons, but on a scale they never attempted." The view screen showed impossible colors as space-time rewrote itself around Proxima Beta. Where a star had once burned, now existed something else. A region where reality operated on different rules, a prison built from the fabric of space itself. "Field stabilization at 90%, Patel reported. "The entities, they're contained. Actually contained." A cheer went up across the combined fleet, for species celebrating as one. But Winter noticed Hassan's expression darken as he studied his readings. "Admiral," he said quietly, "the field is stable, but it's growing. The calculations, we didn't account for." Lara moved to his station, their light patterns shifting to show concern. "The displacement effect. It's cascading through surrounding space. How far will it spread?" Winter demanded. "At current rates? It will consume this entire sector within a year. The space within will remain permanently altered, uninhabitable by any known form of life." Winter nodded slowly. They had contained the entities, but at a terrible cost. An entire sector of space would become a dead zone, a reminder of what happened when civilizations faced extinction and chose survival at any price. She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, set course for the Arcturus rally point. We've won today, but our work isn't finished. We need to establish a permanent quarantine zone and ensure no one ever breaches this prison." As the combined fleet prepared to depart, Winter stared at the swirling anomaly that had once been Proxima Beta. They had succeeded where the ancient ones had failed, not through superior technology or understanding, but through unity, for civilizations setting aside their differences to face a common threat. Send a message to all our governments, she ordered. The quarantine zone will be a joint responsibility. No single species can be trusted with this burden alone. We opened this door together, we faced its consequences together, and will guard against its return together. The Hyperion turned away from the newly created prison zone, its allies following in formation. Behind them, space itself had been changed forever, a section of the galaxy sacrificed to contain a darkness that had nearly consumed everything. As they jumped to FDL, Winter thought about the warning they would leave for future generations. Not just about the entities, but about the price of curiosity unbridled by wisdom, of progress unmarried to caution. The Ancient Ones had tried to warn them once. Now it was their turn to stand guard, to be the watchers in the dark, protecting not just their own civilizations, but all those yet to come. The entities were contained, but their echo would resonate through the stars forever, a reminder that in the vast darkness between worlds, some doors should remain closed, some boundaries left uncrossed. And if they must be opened, let it be done with unity, wisdom, and the understanding that every great discovery carries within it the seeds of either salvation or destruction. The choice, as always, lies not in the discovery itself, but in how we face its consequences.